Okay, so imagine your financial life for a second. Is it like this super streamlined, easy to manage system?
Probably not for most people, let's be honest.
Exactly. Or is it maybe a bit more like, that junk drawer pretty much everyone has?
Oh, I know the one. Yeah, overflowing with stuff.
Totally overflowing. Old receipts you're not sure you need, bank statements from accounts you barely remember opening, maybe even a couple of forgotten gift cards hiding in there somewhere.
That tangle, right, that messy mix of unorganized bills, that feeling of not really knowing where your money is actually going each month.
Yeah, and maybe missing out on chances to save or invest just because everything feels, well, too messy to even start tackling.
That's what we're talking about. That's financial clutter. And it's not just sitting there, is it? It actually weighs you down.
It really does. Creates stress, makes you feel kind of out of control.
That junk drawer analogy is perfect, actually. Because financial clutter isn't just physical paper piles, it's very much a mental burden, too. It creates this fog, makes it hard to see your true financial picture clearly.
Obscures things, makes it tough to get any momentum going or feel confident about decisions for the future.
Exactly. Difficult to make those confident moves towards your goals.
Okay, but what if you could tackle that mess?
Yeah.
Really face it head on.
What if you could clear away that chaos?
And create like a calm, clear path forward. One that leaves you feeling genuinely confident, actually in control of your money life, right here in the US.
That sounds pretty good.
Well, that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. That's our mission today. We've gathered a whole stack of really great sources, articles, research findings, practical guides from financial experts that really dig into the common traps people fall into, but also the practical, like actual steps you could take to simplify your money situation.
So we're looking at how to turn that financial chaos into hopefully some financial calm and clarity.
That's the goal. We've got materials covering, well, pretty much everything, from the psychological reasons why we make financial mistakes.
Right, the why behind the mess.
To spotting the specific problem areas in your own life, and then a step-by-step roadmap for actually cleaning it up.
And importantly, the real benefits you get from bringing that order to your finances. It's not just about neat files.
Definitely not. Okay, so let's unpack this whole idea of financial clutter first. Before we metaphorically grab our brooms and start sweeping.
Right.
You kind of need to understand why the mess builds up in the first place, don't we? What are the common roots? What causes all this financial disarray?
That's the crucial starting point. And our sources point to several really fundamental reasons. One huge one, and honestly it feels like a bit of a systemic issue in the US, is simply a lack of basic financial education. So many adults just enter the real world without an instruction manual for managing money.
Yeah, I never got one of those in school.
Exactly. Nobody taught them how to budget effectively or how to save consistently or the basic principles of investing or even just how to handle debt responsibly.
So you're thrown into the deep end.
Pretty much. This lack of foundational knowledge leaves people unprepared. And unfortunately, making costly mistakes becomes almost inevitable as they try to figure out complex financial decisions on their own.
It's like trying to navigate a really complicated city, without ever being shown a map or how the trains work. You're just bound to get lost or take some expensive detours.
That's a great way to put it. And then layered on top of that is the incredibly powerful influence of our emotions on decision-making.
Money and feelings, always a tricky mix.
Oh, definitely. Money isn't just about numbers on a screen. It's deeply tied to our emotions. Fear and greed, for example, can drive really impulsive or frankly, ill-advised investment choices.
Buying high, selling low, that kind of thing.
That's often driven by emotion, yes. And on the spending side, things like stress, boredom, maybe even excitement can trigger unnecessary spending. What people sometimes call retail therapy.
Right. I had a bad day, deserve this new, whatever it is.
Exactly. We use shopping or spending to sort of cope with feelings, but it just drains our funds quickly without actually fixing the underlying issue.
And probably adds to the stress later when the bill comes.
Precisely. And speaking of stress from the outside, social pressure plays a huge role, too. That constant urge we feel sometimes to keep up with the Joneses.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
It significantly contributes to financial strain, the desire to maintain a certain lifestyle, or maybe even just appear wealthier than you actually are.
Right. The image.
It can push people to upgrade their homes when they can't afford it, buy the newest cars, chase those expensive vacations, constantly refresh their gadgets. just because their friends or neighbors are doing it.
Lifestyle creep, they call it.
That's exactly it. And that creep often means relying on credit cards or loans, which just leads straight into debt and that chronic financial stress we're trying to avoid.
So it's not just our own internal struggles with money, it's also the external world whispering, hey, you need this thing to be happy or look successful.
Well, absolutely. The pressure is real.
What else contributes to building up this wall of clutter?
Procrastination and avoidance are massive factors. Let's face it, for a lot of people, dealing with finances feels overwhelming. It feels complex or maybe just unpleasant.
Definitely not my favorite Sunday afternoon activity.
Understood. So what happens? People delay crucial tasks. They put off creating a budget. They delay getting serious about paying off debt. They push back, starting to save for retirement, thinking, oh, I'll do it next year.
Kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. But ignoring these responsibilities doesn't make the problems vanish. It just allows them to grow bigger, more daunting over time, which of course leads to even greater instability and stress later on.
It really is like ignoring that tiny leak under the sink, isn't it? Seems easier to ignore it now, but eventually it floods the whole kitchen, and the cleanup is way, way harder.
A perfect parallel. Yeah. And underlying a lot of these behaviors, the emotional spending, the procrastination, even some investment mistakes, are things called cognitive biases.
Okay, this sounds interesting, like how our brains trick us.
In a way, yes. Some of our sources really highlight these. Cognitive biases are basically systematic patterns where our judgment deviates from pure logic or rationality. They're like mental shortcuts our brains take, or errors in how we process information and make decisions. And the tricky part is, we often don't even realize it's happening.
Okay, give me an example. How does my brain secretly sabotage my finances?
Well, a classic one is confirmation bias. This is our tendency to actively look for, interpret, favor, and remember information in a way that confirms beliefs we already hold.
So I only listen to things that agree with me.
Pretty much. In finance, let's say you've decided to invest in a specific company's stock. Confirmation bias might lead you to only read the positive news articles about that company, or only pay attention to the analysts who say it's going up.
And ignore the bad news.
Exactly. You might conveniently overlook or dismiss negative information or potential warning signs. You're essentially building a case to justify the decision you've already made instead of objectively looking at all the available data.
You're seeing only the evidence that proves you right, even if the bigger picture is maybe shouting something else entirely.
Wow, it's powerful. Then there's something called anchoring bias, or sometimes focalism.
Anchoring. Like a boat anchor.
Sort of. It describes our tendency to rely way too heavily on the very first piece of information we receive, the anchor, when we're making decisions. Once that anchor is set in our mind, all our later judgments tend to be made by adjusting away from that initial anchor, often not adjusting enough.
Okay, how does that apply to money?
Well, maybe you fixate on the initial price you paid for an investment. If the price drops significantly, you might be reluctant to sell because you're mentally anchored to that original higher purchase price. It feels like a loss relative to the anchor.
Even if selling might be the rational move now.
Right. Or maybe you're getting a loan quote. You might anchor onto the very first interest rate someone mentions, and then you don't negotiate as effectively because that first number feels like the baseline, the standard. You fail to adjust based on new market data or better offers that might be available.
Huh. So that first number gets stuck in your head and kind of clouds your judgment about what's happening now or what else might be possible.
Precisely. It limits your perspective. And one more big one, overconfidence bias.
Okay, I think I can guess this one. Thinking you're smarter than you are.
Essentially, yes. It's having excessive faith in your own abilities, your own judgment, your own predictions. It leads people to overestimate their ability to predict the future or control outcomes.
How does that hurt you financially?
In investing, it's a big one. It might make someone take on way too much risk, believing they can perfectly time the market, buy at the absolute bottom and sell at the absolute top.
Which is famously difficult, if not impossible, to do consistently.
Exactly. Or it might lead someone to not diversify their investments properly because they are so sure that this one specific stock or sector is going to be a massive winner. They think they're a financial genius when statistically very few people can consistently outperform the market through sheer skill alone.
Wow. Okay. So the roots of this financial clutter are really deep and tangled, aren't they? It's a lack of basic knowledge. It's letting emotions take the wheel. It's pressure from society. It's our human tendency to put things off. And it's even these subtle ways, our own brains process information incorrectly. It's actually no wonder so many people feel completely overwhelmed by it all.
It really is a multifaceted problem. It's complex, and this whole tangled web of causes then leads to specific, tangible forms of financial clutter that actually show up in our everyday lives.
Okay, let's get practical then.
Yeah.
What does this financial mess actually look like? If someone's listening right now, how can they identify if they are living in financial clutter? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, the sources list several really clear indicators that I suspect many people will recognize in their own lives. First and foremost, untracked spending.
Not knowing where the money goes.
Yeah. Simply not knowing where your money is going each month. If you don't track it, all those small, seemingly insignificant daily purchases, the coffees, the little impulse buys at the checkout, the subscriptions you forgot you had, the quick lunches out,
They just vanish into thin air.
they add up invisibly. It's like having dozens of tiny leaks all over your financial boat. They drain your resources slowly but surely, leaving you with little left for savings or important expenses, and you're left wondering why you're always broke before payday.
Yeah, this point really hit home in the sources with some examples, like that daily coffee
That's
hand.
a classic example.
Right. One article pointed out, buying a fancy coffee every single weekday could easily cost you like $680 a year.
Wow, that much?
Yeah. But if you just cut that back, say, to twice a week, like a treat on Mondays and Fridays or something, that cost drops to around $480 a year.
That's over $1,000 difference.
Over $1,200, actually.
Yeah.
Back in your pocket, just from one small adjustment. But you wouldn't even know to make that change if you weren't tracking where the money was going in the first place.
That visibility is absolutely critical. Untracked spending is maybe the primary form of financial clutter because it just obscures the reality of your situation.
Makes sense. What else?
Closely related is living beyond your means, consistently spending more money than you actually earn.
Funding the gap with credit.
Often, yes. Relying on credit cards or loans to maintain a lifestyle that simply isn't affordable based on your income. It's like being on a treadmill where you're constantly using tomorrow's income to pay for yesterday's expenses.
Yeah, essentially borrowing from your future self to fund your present self. That's definitely not a sustainable long-term strategy.
Definitely not. And, even if someone has actually gone through the effort of creating a budget,
Wow.
financial clutter can look like ignoring it or just failing to stick to it. Maybe you made a beautiful spreadsheet, looked at it once, and then never reviewed it again.
Or life happens, right. Unexpected costs come up.
Exactly. And you let those unexpected costs completely derail the budget without making any adjustments elsewhere. So the budget technically exists, maybe in a file somewhere, but it's not a living, breathing tool that's actually guiding your spending decisions day to day.
It's like having a really detailed flight plan, but deciding, I'll just fly around in circles instead.
A perfect analogy. And flying blind like that often leads directly to impulse buying and emotional spending, which we touched on earlier.
Right, the retail therapy.
Using shopping as a coping mechanism. It can drain your funds really quickly and often leads to going over your credit card limits, which then racks up high interest charges, adding yet another layer of debt clutter.
That moment of feel-good shopping might last a few minutes, but the financial hangover, that can stick around for months, even years.
Absolutely. Another huge sign of vulnerability, and this definitely feels like clutter because it creates constant background anxiety, is a lack of emergency savings.
The rainy day fund.
Exactly. Life is just inherently unpredictable. You might get hit with an unexpected medical bill, your car suddenly breaks down, the water heater goes, maybe you face a job loss.
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. And without a readily accessible fund set aside specifically for these things, typically covering 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, these events can cause absolute financial havoc. They can force you into taking on high-interest debt just to cover the basics, setting you back even further.
It really is the financial equivalent of driving without a spare tire or any kind of roadside assistance plan.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong, you're just stranded.
You are. And I liked how one source mentioned, if building a full 3 to 6 month fund feels completely impossible right now,
Yeah, they can sound daunting.
start smaller. Aiming for an initial $1,000 emergency fund while you're still aggressively paying down high-interest debt can provide that crucial first buffer. It gives you a little breathing room.
That makes it feel much more achievable than trying to save, say, $10,000 all at once while you're drowning in credit card interest.
Right. That initial $1,000 buffer is often cited as a really vital first step. It helps break that cycle of having to reach for a credit card every time a small emergency pops up.
Okay, and speaking of credit cards, Carrying high-interest debt itself is a major form of financial clutter, right?
Oh, absolutely huge, especially credit card debt, with typical interest rates often soaring above 20%.
Wow.
Just making the minimum payments means you're barely touching the principal amount you owe. You're mostly paying interest. It traps you in debt for years, sometimes decades, and dramatically increases the total cost of whatever you originally bought.
Plus late payments.
Late payments pile on extra fees, and they damage your credit score, which creates more layers of complexity and cost down the line when you need to borrow for something important, like a car or a house.
It's like you're trying to run forward, but you're carrying this incredibly heavy backpack full of debt, and every month they keep adding these expensive heavyweights to it.
That's a very fitting image. And another layer of debt clutter is taking on too much debt in general, especially for things that aren't appreciating assets or are simply unnecessary purchases.
Like financing that fancy TV or a vacation you can't really afford with cash.
Exactly. Financing luxury items, trips, constantly upgrading gadgets, things where the instant gratification comes at a really steep cost in the long run because of the interest.
Okay, so that covers spending and debt. What about the clutter in just how things are set up?
Yeah, the structural or organizational clutter, having too many accounts is a very common one.
Like bank accounts all over the place?
Multiple checking and savings accounts spread across different banks, maybe old 401k plans from previous jobs just sitting scattered across different investment providers, maybe a drawer full of unused credit cards you opened for a store discount once.
Guilty is charged on maybe one or two of those.
Haha. Many people are. But it makes it incredibly difficult to get a single, clear picture of your overall finances. It increases the chances of missing a payment or getting hit with a fee you didn't know about, and it makes it harder to spot potential fraudulent activity quickly.
It's just impossible to see the whole puzzle when all the pieces are scattered in different boxes all over the house.
Exactly. And closely related to that is the sheer paper trail overload.
The piles of paper. Bills, statements, receipts.
Accumulating mountains of physical financial documents. It creates disorganization, it makes tax time a nightmare, and it turns into a stressful scavenger hunt whenever you actually need to find an important piece of paper, proof of payment, a warranty, anything.
It's the financial version of that overflowing junk drawer we started with, but maybe taking over the whole office.
Precisely. And then finally, looking more towards the future, financial clutter also includes inaction or delay, especially around long-term goals.
Like retirement savings.
Yes. Delaying investing or starting to save for retirement means you miss out on the incredible power of compound interest.
The snowball effect.
That snowball effect, where your earnings start generating their own earnings over time. It's like magic, but it's just math. The earlier you start saving and investing, even with small amounts, the less heavy lifting you have to do later because time and compounding do so much of the work for you.
So delaying means your snowball starts much smaller and much further down the hill. Harder to get it big enough by the time you need it.
Exactly. It makes catching up much more difficult and requires much larger contributions later on. Compound interest is truly one of the most powerful forces in personal finance. Missing out on years of it is a huge hidden cost of procrastination.
Okay, what other future-focused clutter is there?
Well, related to investing, there's investing without a clear plan. Just making decisions based on, say, a hot tip you heard, or market hype, or pure emotion.
Fear of missing out, maybe.
Yeah, FOMO investing.
Yeah.
Instead of having defined goals, understanding your own tolerance for risk, like how comfortable are you really with the idea that your investments might go down sometimes? Or having a clear asset allocation strategy.
Asset allocation. Meaning how you spread your money across different types of investments.
Right, like stocks, bonds, real estate, international, etc. Spreading it out helps manage risk and capture potential returns from different areas. Without a plan that considers your goals, risk tolerance, and allocation, your investment decisions are often just reactive and inefficient. You might chase returns, take too much risk, or, conversely, be too conservative and miss out on growth.
Okay. And specifically for retirement.
Underestimating how much you'll actually need in retirement is a big form of clutter or maybe a blind spot. Many people just assume their costs will drop dramatically once they stop working.
Which might not be true.
It often isn't. They overlook potentially high healthcare expenses, which tend to rise as we age. They might still have housing costs or want to travel or help family. Daily living costs don't just disappear. Assuming retirement will be automatically cheap can lead to significant undersaving.
Thinking retirement equals sipping lemonade on a porch swing. Forgetting about property taxes and Medicare premiums.
Haha, exactly. And maybe the most damaging form of future clutter is prematurely withdrawing funds from your retirement accounts, like your 401k or IRA, before retirement age.
Cashing out early.
Yes. Unless it's an absolute dire emergency, doing this is usually a terrible idea.
Huh.
Not only do you often get hit with significant income taxes and early withdrawal penalties,
Ouch.
but you also permanently remove those funds from their potential future growth. You lose all the compounding that money could have generated over the remaining years or decades. It can set your retirement savings back tremendously.
So financial clutter. Wow, it's this really complex mix, isn't it? It's behavioral patterns, lack of knowledge, emotional stuff, outside pressures, putting things off, scattered systems, disorganized paper, all combining somehow to create stress, block progress, and even put our future security at risk. It sounds overwhelming just listing it all out like that.
It does. It really is a tangled web. There's no doubt about it. And this is the really empowering message that comes through strongly in all these sources. While the problem is complex, the path to untangling it, to simplifying it, is actually quite clear and actionable.
Okay, good. Because it was starting to sound a little hopeless there.
No, not at all. You can simplify. You can declutter your financial life. There are concrete steps you can take.
All right. This is what we've been building up to. How do we actually start sweeping away this mess? Our sources seem to lay out a very structured approach, almost like a step-by-step guide.
They really do, and they emphasize that you absolutely need to start with the bedrock, the foundation. They often frame this as step 0, establish the foundation budgeting and goals.
Step 0, budgeting and goals. Okay, that makes perfect sense. You can't really clean up a mess effectively if you don't first understand how big it is, right? And you won't know where to put things if you don't know what the clean room is supposed to look like.
Exactly. Budgeting is just non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's the cornerstone of any kind of financial organization. It's simply the process of tracking your income versus your expenses, seeing precisely, hopefully down to the dollar, where your money is actually flowing each month.
Not just guessing anymore.
No more guessing. The fundamental goal here is to understand your real spending habits, identify those areas where maybe you're spending unnecessarily, and then consciously decide where your money should go instead, based on your priorities.
How do you actually do that? Pen and paper?
You could, but the sources strongly recommend using tools to make it easier. Budgeting apps are incredibly popular now, things like Mint, YNA, You Need a Budget, and Power Personal Dashboard. There are tons of options available in the US, or even just a simple spreadsheet can work wonders. The key is finding a tool you'll actually use consistently.
So no more wondering where that hypothetical $1,680 a year on coffee actually went. The budget will tell you, plain as day.
Precisely. It provides that crucial visibility that untracked spending completely denies you. And working hand in hand with budgeting is setting realistic financial goals.
Knowing why you're bothering to budget.
Exactly. What are you actually trying to achieve with your money? Are you saving for retirement? A down payment on a house? Trying to pay off student loans? Building up a travel fund? Defining these specific, measurable goals gives you direction. It provides powerful motivation to stick with the plan when things get tough or temptation strikes.
And one source said, maybe don't try to do everything at once.
That's very wise advice. Prioritize just 1 or 2 major goals initially. It helps you avoid feeling scattered and overwhelmed and allows you to maintain focus and see progress faster on those key areas.
Right. Don't try to renovate the whole house at once. Start with the leaky roof or the faulty wiring.
Exactly. Okay, so once you have that foundational understanding from your budget and a clear direction from your goals, then you move to step 1.
Yeah.
Build your safety net, the emergency fund.
Okay, we talked about how lacking an emergency fund creates anxiety and clutter. So now we build it to create security instead.
It's absolutely foundational security. This is a sum of money kept separate, kept safe, kept liquid, meaning easily accessible, specifically earmarked for those unexpected, unavoidable expenses.
The curveballs.
Those medical emergencies, the car repairs, the appliance failures, maybe a period of job uncertainty. Having this fund prevents you from completely derailing all your other financial progress because you won't be forced to whip out a high-interest credit card or raid your long-term retirement savings when life inevitably throws one of those curveballs at you.
Makes sense. So how big should this safety net be? What's the standard recommendation?
The common guideline you'll see everywhere is aiming for 3 to 6 months' worth of essential living expenses. And essential is the key word there.
Not your full income.
No, not necessarily your full income. It's what you absolutely need to cover the basics. Housing, rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, insurance premiums, minimum debt payments, just the must-haves to keep the lights on and a roof over your head.
Okay, 3 to 6 months of essentials. What if my income is less stable?
Good point. Some sources suggest aiming for a larger cushion, maybe 9 to 12 months worth, if your income is highly variable, maybe you're freelance or commission-based, or if your job security feels lower. More cushion provides more peace of mind in those situations.
And what about that idea of starting smaller if you have high interest debt?
Yes, absolutely. As we discussed, if you're currently burdened by significant high-interest debt, trying to save up 6 months of expenses might feel paralyzing. In that case, aiming for a smaller starter emergency fund of maybe $1,000 is a widely recommended intermediate step.
Get that first Dalke buffer in place.
Get that $1K buffer, which can cover many smaller emergencies, and then turn your full focus to aggressively attacking the high-interest debt. Once the debt is gone, you can circle back and build the emergency fund up to the full 3-6-month target.
That seems like a much more manageable sequence. Okay, where should I keep this emergency money? Under the mattress.
Haha, definitely not under the mattress. It must be safe, and it must be easily accessible when you need it, but ideally not too easy to dip into for non-emergencies.
So not stocks.
Absolutely not volatile investments like stocks or crypto. The value could drop right when you need the money. You need principal protection. The best place is typically an FDIC-insured high-yield savings account.
FDIC insured. That means the government backs it up, right?
Yes. Here in the U.S., the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insures deposits up to $250,000 per depositor, per insured bank, per ownership category. So your money is safe, even if the bank fails. A high-yield savings account will typically offer a slightly better interest rate than a standard checking account, letting your emergency fund grow a tiny bit while still being safe and liquid.
Got it. Safe, accessible, FDIC-insured savings account. Okay. Foundation built, safety net started. What's the next step once that basic buffer is in place?
Step 2. Seize the free money the employer match. This applies if your employer offers a matching contribution on your savings in their retirement plan, like a 401k or similar plan here in the U.S.
Prioritize getting the match.
Absolutely. Prioritize contributing at least enough to your employer's plan to get the full company match. Don't leave free money on the table.
Free money. That sounds like the ultimate weapon against clutter. Or maybe building wealth.
It truly is. Think about it. It's an immediate, guaranteed, essentially risk-free return on your investment. Often, it's a 50% or even 100% match on your contribution, up to a certain percentage of your salary.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say your employer offers to match 50% of your contributions on the first 6% of your salary that you save. If you contribute 6% of your paycheck to the 401k, your employer adds an extra 3% of your salary's worth into your account completely free.
Wow. That's a 50% instant return on that 6% you put in. You can't get that anywhere else reliably.
You really can't. It's often a higher return than the interest rate you might be paying on moderate debt, like student loans or even some car loans, which is why it's prioritized so early. It significantly accelerates your retirement savings with money you simply wouldn't have otherwise.
How does that contribution usually happen?
It's typically done automatically through payroll deductions. You just log into your employer's benefit system or talk to HR and specify the percentage of your paycheck you want to contribute. For a traditional 401k, those contributions usually come out before income taxes are calculated, which gives you an immediate tax break as well.
So lower taxable income now plus free money. Seems like a no-brainer if it's offered.
It generally is. Of course, if your employer doesn't offer a match, then you simply skip this specific step for now and move on.
Okay, so we've got the foundational budget and goal set. We've started or built the emergency fund. We've grabbed any free employer match money. What's the next big target on this decluttering journey? Where do we aim our efforts next?
Step 3. Tackle the high-cost clutter paying down debt. This step is particularly critical for any debts that carry high interest rates. We're primarily talking about credit card debt here, but it could also include things like high-interest personal loans or, heaven forbid, payday loans.
Right, the debt that actively works against you the most. But first things first, always make the minimum payments on everything, right? Don't let anything fall behind while you focus on one debt.
Absolutely critical. You must meet at least the minimum payment requirements on all your debts every single month. Failing to do so leads to late fees, penalty interest rates, and significant damage to your credit score, which just creates more problems.
Okay, minimum's covered. Then what?
Then, any extra money you can possibly find in your budget should be focused intently, like a laser beam, on the debts with the highest interest rates. The common guideline from the sources is to prioritize paying down anything with an interest rate typically above, say, 4% or 5%. Some might even say higher, like 7 or 8%, but definitely tackle the highest rates first.
Why the focus on high interest?
Because high-interest debt grows the fastest. It costs you the most money over time. It feels like that heavy weight holding you back financially. Getting rid of it frees up cash flow and mental energy like almost nothing else.
Okay, attack the most expensive debt first. Now, our sources mention two main strategies for how to attack that debt once you've got extra money aimed at it: the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. Can you break those down?
Sure. The debt avalanche is the approach that's mathematically optimal, meaning it saves you the most money on interest over the long run.
How does it work?
You list out all your debts, ignoring the minimum payments for a moment, and order them purely by interest rate, from the highest percentage down to the lowest. You continue making minimum payments on all debts except the one at the very top of the list, the one with the highest interest rate. You throw every single extra dollar you have at that debt.
Hammer away at the most expensive one.
Exactly. Once that highest interest debt is completely paid off, you take all the money you were paying on it, the minimum plus all the extra, and you add it to the minimum payment of the debt with the next highest interest rate. You repeat this process, creating an avalanche of money flowing towards the remaining debts, knocking them out in order of highest interest rate to lowest.
Okay, so mathematically best, saves the most interest, gets you debt-free, technically the fastest if you stick to it. What about the other one? The debt snowball.
The debt snowball method is often associated with personal finance personality Dave Ramsey, though the concept existed before. This method orders your debts differently. You list them by the outstanding balance size, from the smallest balance amount to the largest, regardless of the interest rate.
Small dollar amount first.
Right. You make minimum payments on all debts except the one with the smallest balance. You attack that smallest debt with all your extra money. Once it's paid off, which often happens relatively quickly because it's the smallest one, you get a psychological boost, a quick win.
Feels good to cross one off the list.
It really does. Then you take the money you were paying on that now eliminated debt, its minimum payment plus the extra, and you add that entire amount to the minimum payment of the next smallest debt on your list. You create a snowball effect as you pay off smaller debts. The amount you're throwing at the next debt grows larger and larger.
So avalanche saves you the most money on interest, but snowball might give you more motivation through those quick wins and seeing progress faster, even if it costs a bit more in interest overall.
That's a perfect summary. The Air Personal Finance Guide we looked at, for instance, clearly states the avalanche is financially superior, but it also acknowledges that for many people, the psychological momentum gained from the snowball method is incredibly powerful. It helps them stay motivated and actually stick with the debt payoff plan long enough to succeed.
So the best method is the one you'll actually stick with.
That's often the practical reality. Consistency is key. The most important thing is to choose a method, avalanche or snowball, and commit to it aggressively until that high-interest debt clutter is completely gone from your life.
Okay. What about the idea of consolidating high-interest debt? Is that a good move?
It can be a useful tool in some situations. Debt consolidation typically involves taking out a new loan, maybe a personal loan with a lower interest rate, or using a balance transfer credit card offer, often with a 0% introductory rate for a period, and using those funds to pay off multiple existing high-interest debts like several credit cards. The goal is to simplify things down to a single monthly payment, ideally with a lower overall interest rate than what you were paying before.
Sounds good. Simpler, potentially cheaper. Any downsides?
The big risk is that you haven't addressed the underlying spending habits that led to the debt in the first place. If you consolidate your credit cards onto a loan, but then start running up balances on those now empty credit cards again,
Uh-oh. Double trouble.
you can end up in an even worse position. So consolidation can be helpful, but only if it's part of a larger plan that includes budgeting and changing spending behaviors. And just as a broader principle, looking forward, aim to avoid creating future debt clutter by consciously deciding not to finance unnecessary purchases that you can't truly afford with cash.
Right. Prevention is key once you've cleaned up the mess. Makes total sense. Okay, what about lower interest debt? Like maybe I have a mortgage or student loans with rates under that, say, 4 or 5% threshold. Once the high interest stuff is gone, should I attack those aggressively too?
That's a great question, and there's a bit more debate here. The sources, particularly that detailed RAR Personal Finance Guide, suggests that once your high-interest debt, over 4 or 5%, is cleared, you have a choice regarding lower interest loans.
What's the choice?
Paying down a low-interest loan early offers you a guaranteed risk-free return equal to that loan's interest rate. If you pay off a 4% student loan, you've essentially earned 4% risk-free on that money. However, investing that same money in the stock market, for example, through index funds in your retirement accounts,
Might earn more.
might yield a higher average return over the long term, say 7–10% historically, though that's absolutely not guaranteed and involves taking on investment risk. So many financial experts suggest that once high interest debt is gone and your emergency fund is fully funded to the 3 to 6 month level, it can be mathematically advantageous to just pay the minimums on low interest debt, like many federal student loans or mortgages, and instead focus your extra money on building wealth through investing.
Because the potential investment return is higher than the interest you're saving by paying off the cheap debt early.
Exactly. They view that low interest debt as less urgent clutter compared to the opportunity cost of not investing for long-term goals, like retirement. Now, psychologically, some people just hate all debt and want it gone, which is also a valid personal choice. But from a pure numbers perspective, prioritizing investing over paying down low interest debt often makes sense.
Okay, that's a really important clarification. Don't necessarily feel pressured to aggressively pay off your 3% mortgage if you could be investing that money for potentially higher long-term returns. And definitely don't carry a balance on a low-interest credit card just to build credit.
Oh, goodness, no. The interest cost, even if low, will almost certainly outweigh any tiny marginal benefit to your credit score. Pay your credit card bills in full every month.
Got it. Okay, so high-interest debt is tackled. We're making minimums on low-interest debt. What's the next step in building our simplified, decluttered financial life?
Step 4, investing for the future, specifically IRAs. Once you've got that emergency fund solid, the full 3 to 6 months now, and the high-interest debt is gone, the next priority is typically to start contributing to an individual retirement account, or IRA.
An IRA. That's separate from my work 401k.
Yes, it's an account you open yourself at a brokerage firm. You can contribute up to a certain annual limit set by the IRS. There are 2 main types, traditional IRA and Roth IRA.
Why focus on an IRA at this specific stage? Why not just put more into the 401k beyond the match?
That's a common question. The main reason IRAs are often prioritized next is that, in general, especially if you open one at a major low-cost brokerage like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Charles Schwab,
The big names.
right, they typically offer a much wider range of investment options compared to what might be available in your specific employer's 401k plan. And maybe more importantly, they frequently offer access to funds, particularly broad market index funds, with significantly lower expense ratios.
Expense ratios. Those are the fees, the fund charges, right?
Exactly. It's the annual fee expressed as a percentage of your investment. Even small differences in expense ratios can add up to tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars less in your pocket over a long investing lifetime. Lower fees mean more of the investment returns stay with you. Opening an IRA gives you more control over those costs and potentially access to more efficient investment vehicles.
Okay. So more choice, potentially lower costs.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned traditional versus Roth IRA. What's the quick difference there?
The core difference is all about taxes. When do you get the tax break?
Okay.
With a traditional IRA, your contributions might be tax deductible in the year you make them, depending on your income and whether you have a retirement plan at work. Your money then grows tax deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes on the growth each year. But your withdrawals in retirement are taxed as ordinary income.
So tax break now, pay taxes later.
Generally, yes. With a Roth IRA, it's the opposite. Your contributions are made with after-tax money, meaning no upfront tax deduction now. But the huge benefit is that your investments grow completely tax-free, and all your qualified withdrawals in retirement are also completely tax-free.
So pay taxes now, no taxes later.
Exactly. The right choice between Roth and traditional depends mostly on your current income tax bracket versus the tax bracket you anticipate being in during retirement. If you expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement, the Roth is usually better. If you expect to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, the traditional might be better. It's a bit more complex than that, involving income limits and other factors, but that's the basic trade-off.
Okay, that's a whole other deep dive maybe. But the key here is, after e-fund and high-interest debt, contribute to an IRA, whichever type makes sense for you, up to the annual limit.
That's the general recommendation in this step-by-step framework, yes.
Now, what if my employer's 401k is actually really good? Like maybe it has super low-cost index funds, just like an IRA would, and it had a great match. Or another scenario, what if I have a really big, unavoidable expense coming up soon, like I need to pay my own college tuition next year?
Both excellent points where flexibility is needed. The Our Personal Finance Guide, for example, explicitly points out that if your employer's 401k plan is truly excellent, meaning it has both a good match and offers very low-cost diversified fund options comparable to what you'd find in a good IRA, then you might reasonably choose to swap steps 4 and 5. Meaning you might prioritize contributing more to that excellent 401k even beyond the match amount before you start funding a separate IRA. The framework is a guideline, not rigid dogma you must follow exactly. You adapt it slightly to your specific circumstances.
Okay. And the college tuition example.
Crucially, if you have a significant known near-term financial need for yourself, like paying for your own education or maybe saving for a house down payment in the next, say, 3 years, then saving for that specific goal in safe, low-risk investments generally takes precedence over maximizing long-term retirement savings for that specific pool of money right now. You earmark funds for that near-term goal first.
So paying tuition next year comes before maxing out the Roth IRA this year if you can't afford both.
Correct. Saving for your children's college, however, is typically considered a different goal that's often addressed later in the process, after your own retirement savings are well underway.
Yeah.
You need to secure your own oxygen mask first, financially speaking.
Got it. Okay, so it's a roadmap, but you can personalize it a bit based on your 401k quality and any immediate major needs. Assuming those are handled and you funded your IRA for the year, then comes step 5, increase retirement savings further.
Yes. Now you circle back to your employer-sponsored plan, your 401k, 403b if you work for a nonprofit, TSP if you're a federal employee, whatever it is, and you increase your contributions beyond the match amount. You contribute as much as you can up to the plan's own annual contribution limits, which are much higher than IRA limits, or at least as much as your budget comfortably allows based on your retirement goals.
Is there a target percentage people should aim for overall?
The common rule of thumb recommended by many financial experts is to aim for saving somewhere between 15% to 20% of your gross income, your income before taxes, specifically for retirement each year. This includes the combination of your contributions to your employer plan and your IRA contributions.
15-20% total. So if I put 6% in my 401k to get the match and max out my IRA, which might be another, say, 5-7% depending on my income, I might need to bump up my 401k contribution even more to hit that 15-20% total target.
Exactly, you add it all up. And importantly, if you feel you got a late start on saving for retirement or you have ambitious retirement goals, you might even need to aim higher than 20%, maybe 25% or more if possible to catch up.
Okay, combine contributions to hit that overall savings rate target. Now, what if my employer's 401k options really do seem kind of awful? Like the only choices are funds with really high fees or poor performance histories. Should I still contribute more to it beyond the match or just stick with the IRA?
That's a tough situation, but generally the advice from the sources is yes, you should still contribute beyond the match if you're aiming for that 15-20% plus savings rate, even if the plan's options aren't ideal.
Really? Why?
Because the tax advantage offered by these employer-sponsored plans is usually too valuable to pass up. With a traditional 401k, your contributions reduce your taxable income now, and all the investment growth happens tax-deferred until retirement. That tax deferral is a powerful engine for growth, even if the underlying investments aren't perfect.
So the tax benefits outweigh the bad fund options?
Often, yes. Think of it this way. You can't control the market, and maybe you can't control the fund options within that specific plan right now, but you can control getting the tax break. And remember, if and when you eventually leave that employer, you can almost always roll over the money from that awful 401k into an IRA that you control with much better investment choices.
Okay. So you use the tax advantage now, suffer the mediocre funds temporarily, and then move the money to a better place when you leave the job.
Exactly. Don't let less than perfect investment options today deter you from capturing those really valuable tax benefits for long-term growth. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, especially when tax advantages are involved.
Makes sense. Don't pass up tax advantage growth. But, okay, what about people who are self-employed? They don't have an employer 401k.
All right. If you're self-employed or maybe a small business owner, this is the stage where you'd actively explore setting up and contributing to your own tax-advantaged retirement plan. There are several options designed specifically for this group. Common ones include an individual 401k, sometimes called a solo 401k, which often allows for very high contribution limits. There's also the SEP IRA, Simplified Employee Pension, which is relatively easy to administer, and the Simple IRA, Savings Incentive Match Plan for employees, which is suitable for small businesses with employees. Each has different rules and contribution limits, but they all provide ways for the self-employed to save significant amounts for retirement on a tax-advantaged basis, similar to employees with 401k.
Okay, good to know there are options for everyone. All right, so we've covered a lot: establishing the budget foundation, building the emergency fund, tackling the costly high-interest debt, and now getting serious about building robust retirement savings through IRAs and employer plans or self-employed plans.
Yeah.
The core financial engine is getting tuned up.
It's getting decluttered and optimized, exactly.
But what about the other kinds of clutter we identified earlier? The scattered bank accounts, the piles of paper, the feeling of just administrative overwhelm.
Excellent point. That brings us to step 6 in this decluttering process, which is really all about organizing your money systems. This step focuses specifically on streamlining the logistical and administrative side of your finances to reduce complexity, save time, and lower stress.
Okay, this is where we finally get to consolidate those accounts, wrestle that paper monster into submission, and maybe put some automation to work for us.
That's exactly what step 6 is about. First up,
Right.
consciously consolidate your accounts.
Take inventory.
Take inventory. Make a list of all your checking accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, credit cards. Then ask yourself, do I really need all of these? Can I reduce the number? Close accounts you rarely use, especially if they might be charging sneaky maintenance fees.
And those old 401ks.
As we discussed, rolling over old 401ks from previous jobs into a single IRA that you control is a huge simplification move. It brings everything under one roof, makes it easier to manage your overall asset allocation and track performance.
What about credit cards? Just close the ones I don't use.
Be a bit strategic with credit cards. Closing cards, especially older ones or ones with high credit limits, can potentially lower your credit score. This is because it reduces your overall available credit and might increase your credit utilization ratio, the amount of credit you're using compared to your total limit.
Oh, right. So closing cards could backfire a little on the credit score?
It could. So maybe get rid of cards that have high annual fees that you're not getting enough value from to justify. But consider keeping your oldest credit card account open. Even if you don't use it much, maybe put one small recurring bill on it, as account history length is a factor in your score. Also, keep cards with high limits open if they don't have fees.
So consolidate bank accounts and investments where it makes sense for simplicity, but be mindful about closing credit cards, especially older ones or high limit ones, unless there's a compelling reason like a high fee.
Precisely. And one source specifically mentioned, try not to close any credit accounts right before you plan to apply for a major loan, like a mortgage or a car loan. Lenders like to see stability.
Good tip. Okay, accounts streamlined. What's next in organizing the system? The paper.
The paper monster, yes. The next big push is to go paperless whatever you possibly can and radically reduce physical paper clutter.
Finally, freedom from the filing cabinet.
Maybe. Actively switch to digital statements and bills from your banks, credit card companies, utility providers, investment firms. Most institutions now securely store years' worth of statements online in your account portal. That alone can eliminate a huge amount of incoming paper.
And for the papers you do still get, or old ones you need to keep.
For documents you can't get digitally, or important historical documents, consider scanning them. Scan them and then back them up securely. Using a reputable cloud storage service like Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive is excellent for this, but make absolutely sure you're using strong, unique passwords and enable two-factor authentication for security. Shred the originals if they're not legally required.
Less physical paper means less stuff to file, less stuff taking up space, less stuff to shred later. Makes sense. But there will always be some important papers we need to keep physically, right? Like originals of certain documents.
Absolutely. Things like birth certificates, social security cards, property deeds, car titles, wills. You need to keep the physical originals of those. So for the essential papers that remain, you need an organization system.
Okay, how do we organize the remaining paper fortress?
Our sources provide a pretty detailed guide for tackling that paper trail systematically. First step. Gather everything. Go through every drawer, every shelf, every box, every pile on the counter. Bring all your financial papers together into one central location.
The great paper roundup.
Exactly. Then, the messy part. Sort everything into 3 basic piles or categories. 1, keep. Documents you absolutely need to retain, either short-term or long-term. 2. Shred. Documents that contain sensitive personal or financial information, account numbers, social security numbers, etc., that you no longer need but must dispose of securely to prevent identity theft.
Oh.
3. Discard, recycle. Pure junk mail, expired coupons, flyers, anything non-sensitive that you don't need.
Okay. Keep, shred, discard. Seems like standard organizing principles, but focus just on financial paper.
It is. Once you've done that initial sort, you focus on the keep pile. You need to create a system for storing these documents logically. This system should ideally include both physical and digital components.
Physical and digital. How so?
Your physical system might involve file folders in a filing cabinet, binders on a shelf, maybe a fireproof lockbox kept at home for copies of really essential things, like copies of wills, passports, insurance policies, and potentially a bank-safe deposit box for the truly irreplaceable original documents, things like property deeds, vehicle titles, original birth, death, marriage certificates, maybe stock certificates if you still have paper ones, things that would be a huge hassle or impossible to replace if lost in a fire or flood at home.
Okay, different levels of physical security. And the digital system.
Your digital system should ideally mirror your physical system for consistency. Use secure cloud storage, create folders with clear names, and store scanned copies of important documents there. This gives you easy access from anywhere and serves as a backup if something happens to the physical copies, except for those irreplaceable originals in the safe deposit box.
Got it. Multi-layered approach for access and security. How should we label all these files and folders, both physical and digital?
Keep the labeling simple, clear, and intuitive for you. Use easy-to-understand terms, things like bank accounts, credit cards, investments, loan documents, taxes 2023, insurance home, insurance auto, medical bills, pay stubs, estate planning, property records, whatever makes sense so you can find things quickly later.
And inside the folders.
Organize chronologically, usually with the newest documents placed right at the front or on top. That way, the most recent statement or bill is always the easiest one to grab.
Simple, clear, chronological, love it. Now, the million-dollar question everyone always asks, how long do I really need to keep all this stuff?
Ah, yes, the retention schedule. This is crucial for preventing your filing system from becoming just another form of clutter. The sources provide some really practical guidelines, particularly relevant for U.S. tax and record-keeping purposes.
Okay, lay it on us.
All right, generally speaking, less than 1 year. Most everyday receipts, unless needed for a warranty, return, or specific tax deduction, can usually be tossed after you've reconciled them with your bank or credit card statements. Also, old monthly investment or insurance statements can often be discarded once you receive the annual summary statement, though check if you need purchase confirmations, see below.
Okay, toss the small stuff quickly.
1 year or more, often until completion sale. Loan documents, like for a car or student loan, should generally be kept until the loan is fully paid off. Keep car titles until you sell the vehicle. Very importantly for investments. Keep the purchase confirmation statements or records showing how much you paid for an investment, your cost basis, until you actually sell that investment. You'll need that cost basis information to accurately calculate capital gains tax when you sell.
Cost basis for taxes. Keep those by confirmations.
Yeah.
Got it.
7 years. Tax records are the big one here. The official IRS rule is they generally have up to 3 years after you file to audit your return. However, if they suspect you significantly underreported your income by more than 25%, they have up to 6 years. And there are other nuances. So keeping all your tax returns and supporting documentation for a full 7 years provides a very safe buffer.
7 years for tax stuff. Okay. What about forever?
Forever. There are certain crucial, often irreplaceable records you should plan to keep indefinitely, stored very securely, like in that fireproof box or a safe deposit box. These include original birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, divorce decrees, social security cards, military discharge papers like the DD-214, adoption papers, pension plan documents, and your critical estate planning documents, your current will, trusts, durable powers of attorney for healthcare and finance, life insurance policies, and maybe an inventory list of what's in your safe deposit box.
Wow. 7 years for taxes, forever for those really core life documents. That's actually a great, clear set of rules to follow. It takes away the guesswork.
It really does. It helps you confidently shred or discard things you don't need anymore.
And was there a pro tip for actually doing this massive paper organization project? Because it sounds daunting.
Yes. The key tip was break it down into phases. Don't try to conquer the entire paper mountain in one weekend marathon session unless you're really motivated. You'll likely burn out.
Small steps.
Small, manageable steps. Maybe day 1 is just gathering everything together. Day 2 is doing the initial keep shred-a-discard sort. Day 3 is setting up your physical filing system, buying folders, labels. Day 4 is starting to file the keep pile, maybe just for one category like bank accounts. Tackle it in chunks.
Okay, makes it less overwhelming. And how do we stop the piles from just building up again?
Maintenance is key. Establish a consistent routine for processing new paper as it comes in. Designate one specific spot, an inbox tray on your desk, maybe for all incoming mail and papers. Then commit to processing that inbox regularly, maybe daily for a few minutes or at least once a week. Deal with it right away. File it, shred it, pay it, toss it. Don't let it pile up again.
Like inbox 0, but for your physical mail.
Exactly. And importantly, revisit your whole system periodically. Maybe review it quickly every few months initially, and then do a more thorough clean-out once a year, perhaps around tax time. Remove outdated documents based on those retention guidelines we just discussed. Archive older records if needed. Financial decluttering, especially with paper, isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing practice.
An ongoing habit. Got it.
Got it.
Okay, accounts consolidated, paper tamed. What's the final piece of organizing our money systems in step 6?
The final and maybe most powerful piece for long-term simplicity and consistency is automating what you can.
Putting technology to work for us.
Leveraging technology and systems to handle routine financial tasks automatically. This is incredibly powerful for maintaining order and staying on track with minimal, ongoing effort.
What are the big benefits of automating things?
Oh, the benefits are huge. It saves you a significant amount of time and mental energy, no more remembering dozens of due dates or manually transferring money. It helps prevent late payments, which avoids costly fees and dings to your credit score. It reduces the chance of making simple mistakes. And maybe most importantly, it helps you consistently stay on track with your financial plan, especially savings goals, without relying purely on willpower.
Okay, sounds great. How can we automate? Let's start with bills.
Automating bill payments is a fantastic place to start. Set up auto pay directly through the biller's website or through your bank's bill pay service, especially for bills that have consistent amounts each month, things like your mortgage or rent payment, car loan, student loan, maybe subscription services.
What about bills that change amounts, like utilities or credit cards?
You can automate those too, but with a little more caution. If you automate a variable bill, like your electricity or credit card payment, paying the full statement balance automatically is ideal. Just make sure you consistently maintain a sufficient cash buffer in your checking account to cover potentially larger than usual fluctuations. You don't want an auto payment to cause an overdraft.
Good point. Check the buffer. Any downsides to automating bills?
The main potential downside is falling into the set it and forget it trap, where you stop paying attention to your statements altogether. You might miss errors, price increases, or fraudulent charges. So even with autopay, it's still really important to at least briefly review your statements each month when they arrive. Digitally, hopefully. Using reminder apps to ping you a day or two before an autopay hits can also be helpful.
Okay, automate but still verify. Got it.
Yeah.
Automating bills eliminates the stress of remembering due dates and avoids those late fees that just add to the clutter. What about automating savings?
Automating savings is arguably the single most impactful use of automation for building wealth and reaching your goals. This is huge.
How does it work?
You set up automatic recurring transfers from your primary checking account, or your paycheck lands, directly into your savings or investment accounts. This could be your high-yield savings account for your emergency fund, your IRA, your brokerage account for other investments, maybe a 529 plan for college savings.
Do it right when you get paid.
Ideally, yes. Schedule the transfer to happen every payday, maybe the day after your direct deposit hits. This way, the money is saved before you even have a chance to see it or spend it elsewhere. It embodies the pay yourself first principle.
Out of sight, out of mind, savings.
Exactly. Figure out your savings goals. How much do you need for your emergency fund target? How much for that down payment? What's your monthly retirement savings goal based on that 15-20% target? Calculate how much you need to save per paycheck to hit those goals within your desired time frame, and then set up the automated transfers for those amounts.
Does it have to be big amounts?
Not at all. Even automating small amounts consistently makes a massive difference over time thanks to compounding. Don't underestimate the power of saving $50 or $100 automatically every paycheck. It adds up dramatically. Many banking apps and specific savings apps also offer features to help automate saving in smaller ways, like roundups, where they round your debit card purchases up to the nearest dollar and transfer the change to savings.
Pay yourself first, automatically.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. What else can we automate? Tracking and budgeting.
Yes, technology is a huge help here too. Many of the budgeting apps you mentioned earlier, and even many standard online banking platforms, allow you to link all your financial accounts together in one place: checking, savings, credit cards, loans, investments.
The central dashboard idea.
Right. This gives you a consolidated, real-time view of your entire financial picture without having to log into 10 different websites. These apps also automatically track your spending as transactions happen, and they do a pretty good job of categorizing your expenses, though you might need to tweak the categories sometimes. This significantly reduces the manual drudgery involved in budgeting.
Takes the pain out of tracking.
It really does. And you can often set up alerts within these apps, maybe an alert if your checking account balance drops below a certain level, or if you're getting close to exceeding your budget limit in a specific category like dining out for the month.
Proactive warnings. Nice. Anything else for automation?
Tax preparation can be simplified too. There are apps designed specifically to help freelancers or small business owners track deductible expenses automatically throughout the year, often by linking to your bank accounts or letting you snap photos of receipts on the go. This can make tax filing much less of a scramble.
Okay, so technology is definitely a key ally in both organizing our systems and automating them for consistency. Is there anything else that falls under this organizing systems step?
Yes. 2 more related points. One is consciously working on spending less and practicing more mindful purchasing.
Connecting back to the budget and tracking.
Exactly. Once your budget and tracking tools make you more aware of where your money is actually going, you can actively identify areas of waste or spending that doesn't align with your values or goals, actively cutting down on those non-essential daily costs. Maybe it is the fancy coffee, maybe it's frequent impulse buys online, maybe too much takeout can free up significant funds for your savings goals or debt payoff.
And there was an interesting psychological link mentioned in the sources between decluttering physically and spending less.
Yes, that was fascinating. The idea is that the very process of physical decluttering, whether it's sorting through piles of paper or cleaning out closets, often highlights your past spending habits in a very tangible way. You see the clothes you bought and never wore, the gadgets that are now obsolete, the sheer volume of stuff.
Confronting the ghosts of purchases past.
Haha, exactly. And this confrontation can paradoxically reduce the desire to acquire more stuff in the future. It can curb impulse shopping. Letting go of unused items can shift your perspective, helping you appreciate what you already have rather than constantly feeling the need for more. Knowing what you own also stops you buying duplicates.
Seeing all the things you bought that just ended up as clutter makes you think twice before creating more clutter with a new purchase. That makes a lot of sense.
It helps connect your spending habits directly to the physical manifestations of clutter and can weaken that unconscious drive that tells us more stuff equals more happiness.
Okay. And the final point under organizing systems.
Knowing when to seek professional help.
Bringing in the experts.
Absolutely. For many people, especially when things feel really overwhelming, complex, or if you're dealing with significant debt or planning for major life goals like retirement, bringing in outside expertise is a crucial step in organizing and simplifying.
What kind of professionals?
Depending on your needs. A fee-only certified financial planner, CFP, can help create comprehensive long-term financial plans covering investments, retirement, insurance, estate planning. An accredited financial counselor, AFC, can provide excellent guidance on budgeting, debt management, credit improvement, and building basic financial habits, often at a lower cost. And of course, a qualified tax professional, like a CPA or an enrolled agent, is essential for navigating complex tax situations and ensuring you're filing correctly.
So, different experts for different needs.
Yes. And these professionals don't just provide technical expertise, they can offer personalized strategies tailored to you, provide accountability to help you stick to the plan, and critically offer an objective, unemotional perspective. They can help you identify blind spots in your thinking and overcome some of those cognitive biases we talked about earlier that might be subconsciously holding you back.
Right. Sometimes you need that outside view. It's definitely a sign of strength, not weakness, to ask for guidance when you need it to get your financial house in order.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, wow. That step 6 on organizing systems was huge, consolidating accounts. taming paper, automating everything possible, being mindful of spending, and knowing when to call on the pros. That really covers getting the mechanics of your financial life decluttered.
It really does. It sets up the infrastructure for smoother sailing ahead.
So we've covered the core steps from building the foundation through budgeting and goals, securing the emergency fund, grabbing free money, tackling high-interest debt, building retirement savings via IRAs and 401ks, and now organizing all the underlying systems. What about beyond the basics? For people who maybe have done all that or are further along their journey?
Great question. Once that main financial engine is running smoothly, retirement savings are on a good track, hitting that 15-20% plus target, high interest debt is gone, emergency fund is full. Then you can start focusing more intentionally on saving for other specific goals.
What kind of other goals?
This might include planning for future healthcare costs. If you have an eligible, high-deductible health plan, HDHP, through work or the marketplace, contributing to a health savings account, HSA, is incredibly powerful.
HSAs. Those have special tax advantages, right?
Unique triple tax advantage, actually, here in the U.S. Contributions are tax-deductible going in, the money grows tax-free inside the account, and withdrawals are completely tax-free if used for qualified medical expenses now or decades later in retirement. It's an amazing savings vehicle if you're eligible.
Well, triple tax-free.
Oh.
Okay. What else?
Saving for education costs is another common goal. Using a 529 plan offers tax advantages specifically for college savings contributions might be state tax deductible, and growth and withdrawals are tax-free when used for qualified education expenses.
Good for kids' college or even your own future education.
Exactly. Or you might be saving for shorter-term goals now that the foundation is solid. Maybe a down payment on a home, saving up cash for your next car, planning a major vacation, starting a business.
The fun stuff or the big life stuff. And how you save for those depends on the timeline, right? You mentioned that briefly before.
Precisely. The type of account and investment you use should match your goal's time frame and your tolerance for risk. For shorter-term goals, money you know you'll need in, say, less than 3 to 5 years, you absolutely want to stick to safe, low-risk options where your principal is protected. You can't afford for that down payment fund to drop 20% right before you need it.
So what kind of accounts are good for short term?
High-yield savings accounts are great. Certificates of deposit, CDs, can offer slightly higher fixed rates if you know you won't need the money for a specific term. U.S. Treasury bonds, particularly Series I bonds when inflation is high, can be another safe, government-backed option. The key is safety and liquidity.
Okay. And for longer-term goals, beyond 5 years maybe?
For longer-term goals, or goals where the timing is more flexible, you can generally afford to take on more investment risk in exchange for the potential for higher returns over time. This might involve investing in a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds, like a mix of stock and bond funds, in a regular taxable brokerage account. Balanced index funds or target date funds can be simple options here.
Match the risk to the timeline. Understand your goal and your comfort level with potential ups and downs.
Exactly right. And building on the behavioral side we discussed earlier, even when you're further along, continuing to work on understanding and mitigating your own cognitive biases is an ongoing process. It doesn't stop.
Still got to watch out for confirmation bias and overconfidence.
Always. Actively recognizing how your personal experiences, your emotions, your inherent biases might be influencing your financial decisions allows you to pause, question yourself, and hopefully make more rational choices, especially with larger sums of money involved. Combining your own judgment, maybe input from a trusted advisor, with the objective data provided by automated tools and tracking can create a really balanced approach to decision-making.
Continuous self-awareness about your own financial psychology is part of the long game. Keeps you humble, maybe.
It really is, and it does keep you humble. And then finally, for those who have truly maximized all the standard tax-advantaged options, they're maxing out their 401ks, their IRAs, maybe an HSA, and they still have additional funds they want to save and invest efficiently.
Good problem to have scenario.
Haha, yes, the good problem scenario. The sources mention some more advanced strategies they might explore.
Gotcha.
Pursuing a backdoor Roth IRA contribution. This is a strategy for high-income earners who are normally phased out of direct Roth IRA contributions, allowing them to still get money into a Roth account. There's also something called the mega backdoor Roth, which is possible if your specific employer's 401k plan allows for after-tax contributions beyond the normal pre-tax Roth limits and allows for in-service rollovers or conversions of those after-tax funds into a Roth account. It can allow for very large Roth savings.
Okay, those sound complex. Definitely need to research or get advice on those.
Absolutely. These are advanced techniques. And another advanced strategy often mentioned is intentionally using an HSA not just for current medical expenses, but treating it primarily as a long-term investment vehicle for retirement, letting the money grow tax-free for decades, leveraging that triple tax advantage to its fullest potential. You'd pay current medical expenses out of pocket, if possible, saving the HSA funds for retirement.
Wow, using the HSA like a super IRA. Interesting. Okay, this deep dive has seriously covered the entire spectrum, hasn't it?
Yeah.
From the deep psychology and root causes of why our finances get messy, to the very specific symptoms and forms that mess takes in our daily lives here in the U.S. Then a really practical, step-by-step, nuts and bolts plan for organizing, saving, paying off debt, investing, all the way through to these advanced strategies. It feels like a truly comprehensive roadmap for simplifying and seriously strengthening your financial life.
It really aims to be. And the positive impact on your overall life, not just your bank account, from actually implementing these steps is pretty profound.
Okay, let's talk about that payoff then. What are the benefits? What does undertaking this whole financial decluttering process actually give you at the end of the day? Why bother with all this?
Well, the most immediate benefit, and perhaps the one people value the most, is a significant reduction in stress. A profound increase in your feeling of being in control of your money rather than it controlling you.
Less anxiety.
Way less anxiety. Simplifying your accounts means less stuff you have to constantly monitor. Automating payments means less worry about remembering due dates and getting hit with fees. Knowing exactly where your money is going, thanks to budgeting and tracking, removes that nagging anxiety of the unknown. It really helps you achieve that sense of living with ease, as one source put it, instead of constantly feeling on edge about finances.
Yeah. Swapping that persistent knot of financial anxiety for a feeling of calm confidence. That sounds pretty amazing.
It really is. And beyond the mental benefits, it leads to dramatically improved financial stability. By establishing that budget, consistently tracking your spending, building up that essential emergency fund, and actively managing or eliminating your high-interest debt, you build a much stronger, much more resilient financial foundation.
So you're less vulnerable when life throws those inevitable curveballs.
Exactly. Your financial house is better built to withstand storms. And of course, you experience increased savings and accelerated wealth building.
Making progress faster.
Much faster. Automating your contributions ensures you're consistently saving and investing month after month. Paying down high-interest debt frees up significant cash flow that can then be redirected to wealth-building goals. Investing early and consistently lets you harness the incredible power of compounding over the long term. All of this accelerates your progress towards financial security and growth much, much faster than leaving things in a state of disorganized clutter.
It's like the positive snowball effect, the opposite of that heavy debt backpack we talked about earlier.
Precisely. And ultimately, having this organized, simplified approach makes achieving your specific financial goals, whatever they may be, much more realistic and makes it easier to stay on track.
Whether it's retirement or that house down payment or funding education.
Right. A clear plan and organized finances provide the visibility and control you need to make consistent progress towards those things that are truly important to you. You can actually see the path forward and measure how close you're getting, which is incredibly motivating.
You're not just hoping anymore. You have a plan you're working. And wasn't there even a potential little monetary bonus from the decluttering process itself?
Yes. A practical side benefit is that as you declutter your physical space as part of this process, cleaning out closets, the garage, the attic, you often uncover unwanted items that you can sell. Books, clothes, furniture, old electronics.
Turn clutter into cash.
Exactly. And that cash can go straight into boosting your emergency fund or making an extra debt payment. It's a direct financial reward for decluttering.
Nice. And there was that deeper psychological benefit, too, about changing our relationship with stuff.
Yes, and this might be the most profound benefit for some. As we discussed, the process of understanding your spending habits through budgeting and physically letting go of unused items through decluttering often fundamentally changes your relationship with consumption. It can really curb impulse shopping. It can weaken that ingrained societal message that acquiring more and more stuff is the key to happiness.
You start wanting less.
You might find you genuinely need and want less. You start aligning your spending much more closely with what truly brings you joy, fulfillment, and value, rather than just accumulating things. And that shift in perspective is perhaps the deepest form of financial well-being you can achieve.
Wow. So it really goes beyond just optimizing spreadsheets and account balances. It's about creating genuine peace of mind, building financial resilience, accelerating your progress towards goals, and ultimately aligning your entire financial life more closely with your deeper values and what you truly want out of life.
It really is a holistic transformation towards financial well-being, not just financial wealth.
Okay, let's try to summarize this amazing deep dive. We've explored the world of financial decluttering, uncovering not just the common reasons why our finances often get so messy.
The lack of education, emotions, social pressure, procrastination, those cognitive biases.
Right, but also what that mess specifically looks like in the U.S. context. The untracked spending, the debt, the scattered accounts, the paper piles, the delayed savings.
All those symptoms of financial chaos.
And most importantly, we've walked through a really practical, step-by-step roadmap to actually sweep it clean.
From understanding our own behaviors and tackling those root causes, to consolidating accounts, organizing the paperwork nightmare, automating our financial flows wherever possible, and following that structured plan for budgeting, saving, debt repayment, and investing, the path to a less stressful, more organized financial life really is achievable.
Yeah, the key lessons really seem clear. It absolutely starts with that foundational awareness you gain through honest budgeting and setting clear goals. You have to know where you are and where you want to go.
Absolutely. And then prioritizing the building of that emergency safety net and the aggressive payoff of high-interest debt creates that crucial stability and breathing room. Those come first.
Consistency seems paramount too. Whether it's making those automated savings transfers happen every single payday without fail, or dedicating just a little bit of time each week to maintaining your document system so it doesn't get out of control again.
Consistency is everything. And it's so vital to remember, as we said, this isn't a one-time spring cleaning event or some quick fix. It's a dynamic, ongoing process.
Things change.
Life changes constantly. Your income might change, your expenses change, your goals evolve over time. So regularly reviewing and adjusting your financial plan, your budget, your organizational systems, maybe once a year, or when major life events happen, is absolutely essential to keep everything working effectively for you.
Keep it relevant, keep it optimized.
Okay.
So for you listening right now, after taking in all of this, here's a little call to action inspired by this deep dive. What is one small, manageable area of your financial life that you can commit to tackling this week? Just one thing.
Doesn't have to be huge.
Not at all. Maybe it's finally setting up one automatic transfer, even just $25 or $50 from your checking to a savings account. Maybe it's finally gathering up that single pile of unopened financial statement that's been mocking you from the corner of your desk and just sorting it into keep, shred, discard.
Or maybe listing just one item from your closet or garage that you don't use anymore, putting it up for sale online, and earmarking that cash for your emergency fund or a debt payment.
Exactly. What's one tiny step, one small action you can take today or commit to doing this week just to begin the process, to build a little momentum?
Any progress, no matter how small it feels, truly is a step forward. It's movement in the right direction.
Absolutely. And just to leave you with a final thought to maybe mull over, we often hear that our physical space can reflect our mental state, right? A cluttered room often feels like a cluttered mind.
There's definitely a connection.
So could it be that dedicating real time and intentional effort to decluttering your finances might actually be one of the most powerful forms of self-care you can practice?
That's a great way to frame it.
Think about the peace of mind it could bring, the reduced anxiety, that genuine sense of empowerment and control that comes from knowing exactly where you stand with your money, understanding where it's going, and having a plan, instead of feeling constantly weighed down by uncertainty and financial stress.
That feeling of control and clarity, it's truly invaluable. It affects every other area of your life.
We really hope this deep dive has given you some clear insights, some practical tools you can use, and maybe just some strong motivation to begin or perhaps continue simplifying and decluttering your money life.
Take that first small step.
Join us next time for another deep dive.